Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden. We're going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up on the west coast. I say that so often on this channel because there's literally a ton of good beer coming out of that city. But for this review, we are going to return to one of the larger by volume craft breweries that you'll find over here in Sweden. So for this one, we are going to go to Jonsered, out to the east of Gothenburg, and we're having a look at another beer from Poppels Bryggeri. This one is the Imperial New England IPA, but I think that it might be called Humlebomb, Hop Bomb. I'm not sure actually what the exact title of this beer is, so I will need to check that before I publish the video. But this is the first one I'm having from Poppels Bryggeri in a can, which is quite exciting, and it's a New England double IPA, double dry hopped, coming in at 8% ABV. So this one should hopefully be really quite interesting. This particular beer was released on the 5th of May 2020 through the Tillfälligt assortment, small partiers, whatever you want to call it, in Systembolaget over here. And like I say, this is the first canned beer, and I think also the first New England IPA that I've had from them. The last beer that I had was the Project the project number 17. And that was a really lovely barley wine. I was very impressed with that beer, and I'd maybe go as far as saying that was my favourite one that I'd had from them so far. In terms of IPAs, I know that I've had Grapefruit Pale Ale. I think that was the Project number 5, and then it was reiterated later on, and I reviewed the reiteration as well. And I've also reviewed their double IPA. But as far as memory goes, I don't think I've ever had a New England hazy beer from these guys. So this one should be exciting on that count as well. But very curious to see how this one turns out. There's a few interesting things about this beer, and I'm sure we'll be in for a very interesting tasting, so I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Poppels Bryggeri before. No doubt you will see some more in the near future. I believe this is review number 12 or so from these guys. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Poppels Bryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So Poppels Bryggeri, as I've told you before, were originally based in a town called Mölnlycke to the southeast of Gothenburg, but they're now based in Jonsered, which I believe is kind of to the, just straight up to the east. It might be a little bit northeast, but yeah, they've moved in 2016 if I remember correctly. But this brewery is named after that which was owned by Johan Poppel, who was a well-known German-Swedish brewer who spent most of his life in Varberg to the south of Gothenburg and Gothenburg itself. But he was born sometime between 1605 and 1610 in Lower Saxony, Sachsen-Anhalt in Germany, but then he moved to Sweden with his family in the 1620s. He met his wife Katarina Krakow sometime between 1624 and 1628, and he later founded Gothenburg's first brewery with her, officially in 1649, but it's believed they were brewing without licenses and stuff since 1638. And he's also said to have written down the protocol or the constitution of the city of Gothenburg in Sweden for the first time as opposed to German. But the brewery apparently remained in the Poppel family for a number of generations, and the most famous site of this brewery in Gothenburg was at Stigbergets, and you might recognise that of course because of Stigbergets Bryggeri. It's, you know, it's a geographical location. Stigbergets Square basically in the city centre. But this version of the brewery was officially founded back in 2012 in Mölnlycke on a site that was apparently owned by the Poppel family, which is where it takes its name from. But the brewery is owned by 15 beer lovers. The main drivers though were Daniel Granat, Thomas Kaldern and Thomas Filman. And the others are kind of small investors from what I understand, but some of them do take an active role in the brewery. But the main idea behind these guys is they wanted to focus on the pairing of beers and food. The current brewmaster, of course, is Daniel Granat. He's a bit of an experimenter and a bit of a perfectionist, so he brews most of his new beers 4 and 5 times before he actually allows them to go out for release. And apparently he reads many different beer blogs and keeps up to date with, you know, new brewing methods, new hops, malts, different yeast strains, and all of these kind of things. So he is like a proper home brewing nerd, if you like. He likes to read up a lot on these things. But as a result of that, you get some very, very interesting beers, particularly in the Project series of things. So if you get the chance to try some of the Poppels beers, if you've got the choice between some of the regular ones and some of the Project ones, I'd recommend the Russian Imperial Stout. That's very good. The double IPA is nice. And I think, yeah, probably those are my two favourite beers from the core range. But then you get the you get the Project series, and as I say, Project 16, Sexton and Houton have both been good. Two different. I think one of them was a barrel aged version of the barley wine. But yeah, they've done a couple of barley wines in the last Project series, and I forget what I've had from it before that. But I always try and make the effort to review the Project beers from these guys. They've always got some very interesting things. But as of May 2020, when I'm producing this review for you, they've produced around 95 different kind of beers, according to Untappd. But they moved in 2016 up to Jonsered. They've also got a restaurant and shop up there, and they are Sweden's largest organic beer producer as well, which is quite interesting. So yeah, one of the larger by volume capacity craft breweries here in Sweden. I think if you compare these guys, Sigtuna, and I think Opigårds now are producing quite a lot of stuff. These are probably the three bigger by volume craft breweries that you're going to find in Sweden. So Poppels is one that you maybe are quite likely to find outside of Sweden. I don't know if they export to Norway and Denmark and Finland and things yet, but I know that these beers are going abroad a little bit, along with Sigtuna and a few other of the smaller breweries are exporting on a smaller scale as well. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Poppels Bryggeri for the moment. Definitely nice to try another beer from these guys, another style that I've never had from them before as well. So hopefully this one turns out to be very interesting. If you want to learn more about Poppels Bryggeri, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages. So yeah, let's see how we go with this then. So I'll let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. I always find, I do like the style of the artwork you get from Poppels. It's very like newspaper article like. If you just look at that whole label, I find it very, very newspaper like. I think that's very very nice actually. I do like the way that they style the beers, and they've never changed that as far as I can gather. You can see also it's got the Norwegian pant on it there as well as the Swedish one, so they must be sending some of these beers up to Norway. But yeah, on the side here, Daniel always likes to write a little bit on the side of the beer. So it says the Ölstil in New England IPA är en väldigt humlig utan att vara så besk. So this is it's basically saying this beer style, the New England IPA, is a very hoppy style without the bitterness. Det har vi tagit fasta på detta. Also, we've made this beer. We've basically made it strong, basically. This is the principle we've taken with this beer, they're saying. Vi har skapat en ordentlig humlebomb där har vi ökat mängden av allt. So basically they're saying we've created a true hoppy bomb, if you like, and basically taken the amount of everything up. So yeah, efter att ha fascinerats av den amerikanska östkost-IPA, ljusighet och humledominions ville vi för detta ölet skruva upp smakerna ytterligare ett nivå. So basically he's saying here he's had a fascination with the American East Coast IPAs, the juiciness and the hoppiness of them, and for this beer he wanted to basically skruva up. Is that like to push? Like to kind of push up or prop up the taste, if you like, to take it up to the next level, essentially, he's saying. But this is detta är en dubbel Imperial IPA i samma ölstil. So this is a double Imperial IPA in the same beer style. Ölet har en ordentlig humlighet med en fyllig ljusig smak. So basically this beer has a truly, a bit of ordentlig. It's like it can mean sort of truly, but it can also mean, I think, like massive, basically big, huge. So this beer has a huge hoppiness with a full, juicy taste. So Daniel Granat, the Brewmästare. So yeah, you can see that's his little statement there. My translations, those of you watching in Swedish are probably wanting to cover your ears at that, but yeah, that's basically what he says on the side of this beer. And it tells you, I like how it gives you a kind of food pairing guide and things, and tells you about the sort of taste profile of the beer as well. I never look at that, of course, because that's the whole point of doing these videos. We'll maybe look at it a little bit later, but it tells you also a little bit about the brewery and things like that as well. But this one has oats and wheat in it, so yeah, this one should be quite nice and creamy. But like I said, an 8% New England double IPA, double dry hop this one, so hopefully it's not too dusty. 330 millilitres. I think this one actually only cost me like 40 crowns, so for what it is, I think the price of this is pretty reasonable. So yeah, let's get it out and into the glass. So yeah, this is the thing, this month, because of the nasty virus that's going about, they've changed the small partiers into a kind of weekly thing. So every Tuesday I need to go to Malmö and pick up the different beers basically. So yeah, I need to keep an eye out for that. But yeah, as you can see with this one, and as you'd expect from a New England IPA, this is poured a lovely, very hazy. This one's definitely leaning towards the yellow end of the spectrum. Some of them can be quite orangey, but this one has a solid, somewhere between a half and 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. That head is going to turn out to be really nice. I've got a feeling there's Centennial in this because there's a really citricy note coming out of this. There's something in my head that just tells me there's Centennial in this beer, but we'll look at the aroma a little bit more closely in a minute. But there's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there. This one is pretty damn hazy. You can see if I put my fingers behind that, it's got a real haziness to it. But as you go up the alcohol scale with these New England IPAs, they are going to get hazier and hazier because of the higher oak content and wheat content and things. Those are the two components that make these beers very, very hazy. As I've said in previous reviews, I always think that with the New Englands, if you're going to go above 8% or 8.5 at most, you really need to put a little bit of caramel in things, or carapils or something like that in the beer, just to give it the sweetness. I've always felt that if you stick to a pure wheat, oat and pale malt base, I think these beers, they don't taste quite the same. If you go, they taste very, very boozy and stuff if you start to go above that 8.5% mark without a sweet element to the malt base. But this one, as I say, it's in 8%, so it should be kind of quite safe in that regard. But this beer looks very, very nice. One of the more yellow New England IPAs that I've come across. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and you see just a steady stream of smaller bubbles going up towards the bottom of that head there as well. But overall, it looks pretty damn nice. So let's have a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one then. Ooh, this is going to be a bit of a beast, I think. In terms of its malt base, it doesn't smell too kind of pungent actually. The malt base comes across as very, very smooth. It actually comes across as quite pale malty. As I've said in some of these New England IPA reviews before, some of them can smell very oaty and creamy, almost lactosey actually, and kind of sugary, milkshakey, and then some of them can lean really towards the wheaty side of things. This one actually sits kind of right in the middle. It's got a little, you can get a little bit of the wheat, you can get a little bit of the oatiness, but I think you get a lot of pale malt out of the aroma of this one. It smells very kind of bready, and it smells really kind of white bready basically, but that also might be down to the dry hopping. The dry hopping, if you drink these beers too early, sometimes you just get a little bit of dustiness out of them, but sometimes you can also get if you leave it maybe about a week or so, maybe a week, 10 days in the can, you get a really nice juiciness from the double dry hop beers. And this one was delayed. I believe this beer was supposed to come out, was it the 24th of March or something? No, sorry, the 24th of April or 29th of April. These beers were supposed to be released earlier than they were, and it was by about a week or 10 days or something that these beers were released late actually. So yeah, this one I think it should be in pretty good shape just now, but there is a wee bit of a mix there. You do get a bit of that kind of pale breadiness to the beer in the malt base, but you can also still smell a little bit of the dustiness from the dry hopping. But yeah, the more and more that I smell of this beer, you do get just a little hint of a biscuity malt out of this one. But yeah, in terms of you do get a little bit of a kind of, I do wonder if this is like a Lallemand yeast or something that's in here, because I think this is a Vermont yeast that they've used, because it does have just a little bit of that more farmhousey quality to it. Of course, some of the London fogs can give you that as well, in fairness, but there is something quite distinctive about this. I've definitely had a beer that's had this type of yeast in it before, because at the back of your nose you really get a little bit of that woody, herbally, vegetally kind of thing. You can smell that underneath the wheat and the pale malt and the oats and things like that. Some of the yeasty qualities are pushing their way out of this a little bit. Just there's a little bit of an almost peppery quality to this beer as well, but you do get a nice kind of biscuity note to this one. I like how this, I really like how this beer comes together actually. It's definitely one of the more kind of grainy, yeasty leaning New England IPAs I've come across recently in terms of its aroma. So yeah, I like that. I like beers that make you think a little bit, as you've probably gathered on the channel already. But yeah, hoppy side of things, right. So the green side of the hops on this one, there's a little touch of earthiness there, but I think this one has quite a full kind of floral aromaticity to it. It's not overly spicy, but you do get a good big, bit of floral quality out of this one. There's a little bit of a lighter kind of grassiness in there as well, but I really like I like the kind of green side of this. I like my beers to have a big kind of floral edge to them, and as I say, you do get a little bit of the dustiness from the dry hopping in this. There is a little bit of grassiness there, but for me, the green side of the hops, it really is quite big and floral. Not piney, definitely floral in my mind. But yeah, the fruity side of things then. Where do we go with this? So yeah, this one I think, as I said earlier, when I first smelled this one, there is a little bit of a citricy quality to this one, so I do wonder maybe there is a bit of Centennial in here. When you go into the nose, I don't actually get too much of the... I don't get too much in the way of that kind of sharp lemony note that you might get from Centennial. You don't get too much of that citrusy note. I noticed it from a bit further away, but I do wonder, maybe there is a bit of Centennial in here. Mainly the aroma. There is an element of an orangey note to this one. Could it be a little bit of a mosaic? There is just a little bit of that orangey, kind of oily, tangerine-y note sitting underneath the aroma there. So I do wonder if there is a wee bit of mosaic in there. But mainly it's a tropical sort of fruit you're getting from this one, quite a passion fruity note. I don't think the hops in this one, I've got a feeling the hops in this are a little bit more old school. You know, it could be... It's passion fruit. The fruitiness that you get out of this is passion fruit. So I've got a feeling it could be... it might be Galaxy or Victoria's Secret that's in this one, because the passion fruit does have quite a bit of pungency to it. If it was a bit softer, I would be more tempted to say Simcoe, but it's definitely passion fruit of some description that's in this one for me. But you're also getting a little bit of... There is a wee bit of that kind of mango-y note, and there is a little bit of juiciness to it as well. So the other option could be Idaho 7, right enough. Idaho 7 gives you passion fruit, but it also gives you these lighter, kind of juicier things. There's El Dorado as well. There's so many hops that can give you passion fruit, basically. But I do wonder if it's maybe... Something makes me want to say it's Victoria's Secret or Galaxy that's in here. I don't know though. As I say, for me it's passion fruit, and it's one of the passion fruity hops that's in here. I always like playing Guess the Hops with these beers. It's always interesting. And I think actually, if I remember right, I've got a feeling now that I think about it, I might have been telling you lies. I'm pretty sure that I had like a big triple IPA from these guys before, and I think it said it was Citra and Mosaic or something was in it, and I'm sure they messaged me and told me that the hops that I picked out was absolutely right. There was another IPA I tried from these guys, and I think it might have been Daniel told me that my guessing of the hops was right in that. So yeah, I might be telling you lies. I might have reviewed a New England IPA from these guys before, and I'm sure it was a big, you know, beast of a kind of triple IPA or something like that. That's just kind of sprung to mind. But yeah, I think there's definitely one of the more passion fruity leaning hops in this. There's a nice bit of a lighter, juicy tropical note to this. There's a wee bit of like a papaya, slightly mango apricot-y kind of thing in this beer as well. Actually, I like how all of that kind of goes together. So yeah, it's got some lighter, juicier tropical fruits, and you've also got a little bit of an orange character to it as well. So could it be like, you know, could it be Idaho 7, Mosaic, and maybe a bit of Centennial or something like that? It might also be a bit of Citra, but then again, I'm not sure about that. There's something that tells me that it's not Citra. Yeah, I think I've got a feeling it's one of the passion fruity hops. Maybe a little bit of Centennial, because you do get a bit of that kind of lemony note out of it at the front of the nose. You've got a wee bit of a mosaic-y, orangey, tangerine quality. Of course, it could be a Zaka or something like that. A Zaka would be a good option because it gives you a little bit of pineapple quality, and you know, there could be a bit of pineapple with this, in fairness. But yeah, basically the aroma of this, there's a wee bit of the darker passion fruit, there's some nice sort of oily, juicy kind of tangerine orangey notes, and in between that you've got like the papayas, apricots, bit of pineapple. You've got these kind of softer tropical fruity notes coming out of the beer as well. So this one for me is a really interesting kind of concoction of things. Actually, it doesn't smell anything, you know, it doesn't really give you anything surprising for the New England style in terms of aroma and stuff. So I think it might be one of these ones that's just, you know, quite well done, and that's kind of what you expect from Poppels. You do expect beers that are, you know, well done and flavourful within the style. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we go. And take a bit of time and enjoy that aroma. But this one is the, to give it its exact name, this is the Humlebomb, if I've got it right, the Imperial New England IPA, double dry hopped at 8% ABV. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål. Ooh, that's nice. I'm going to say straight away to Poppels on this. This is a good beer. If this is only a one-off brew, that's a terrible shame, because that is really good. This doesn't look out of place against, Sweden's got a very... The ground is almost a little bit saturated with the amount of IPAs and stuff that you can get here, but that is really good. I would say go with that name Humlebom and release that as a regular beer. That's good. This doesn't look out of place against, the Narangis, the New Swedens and all of these kind of things. This is good. This amazing haze. This is a very, very good beer. So it's quite an old school one actually. It strikes me as being a little bit old school, but that suits it actually. It's got a really quite strong, powerful flavour to it, and that's what you want. You want a beer like that every so often. If it says Humlebom, that's what you want, and that's what it delivers. This beer I think I'm actually getting just at in very good condition. It's maybe just as well it was delayed a little bit, because as I said, if you have a double dry hop beer, sometimes it can feel a little bit dusty, but that is a really nice beer. If you want a more West Coasty IPA from these guys, try the original double IPA. I think that was the Pro 8 number 2 or number 1, I forget. But yeah, try that one. But if you want a New England, then this is really good actually. This is a very, very nice beer. So yeah, if someone from Poppels is watching, it's a terrible shame if this is only going to be a one-off. Definitely consider making that one of the core range. This is good. Let's try and break this down a little bit then. Yeah, I like this. What I'll say about this beer, it comes across as it's one of the cleaner New England IPAs that I've come across. I mean, the malt base in this one for me feels really quite light, but then you start to get all the flavours that you expect of this style more in the aftertaste. So bear that in mind. And I think I remember the Poppels beer was just feeling quite clean. They must have a very good water source up there. Actually, I want to get out to their restaurant and do a little bit of filming and maybe do an interview with Daniel or something. That would be really nice. But I've always found, I think the Poppels beers do feel quite clean, generally because of the water that they're using. But yeah, let's try and break this down then. So middle of your palate, you can feel a little bit of that pale malty quality. That blankets the middle of the tongue. It feels very, very smooth, this one. If you go towards the back of the palate, you can feel the wheatiness. It has a little bit of bite to it, but mainly the wheatiness that you're getting out of this one is really quite smooth. And if you come further forward on the palate, as I say, you've got the back third, so that's the more kind of wheaty, bitey part. The middle third of your tongue, that's when you get the more kind of boozy things. And then you've got a bit of the oatiness just at the front of that middle third of your tongue. But really, everything between the very back and the sort of front of the middle third of your tongue is very smooth. It really is very, very smooth how everything goes together in this beer. That's quite surprising about this beer. I don't really get much in the way of sweetness out of the malt base. I mean, in the middle of your palate you can pick up a wee bit of the booziness there, but it almost feels like the kind of hoppy oils and stuff that you're getting out of this. It feels like the booziness is kind of absorbed into there rather than the malt base. You do get a little bit of warmth out of it down here, which you're going to get at 8%. There's no kind of debating that. But to me, the booziness out of this beer, it really doesn't feel like it comes from the malt base. You do get a little bit of that kind of boozy warmth on the tongue later on in the aftertaste. You've seen how long it was since I took a sip of this beer, but it really feels that the booziness out of this beer, it's kind of mixed in with this big hoppy oil. It feels like you've got a very kind of almost flat and quite smooth malt base from the oats, the wheat and the pale malty notes in this. You've got that kind of forming the base of the tongue, and then everything else is like a wet layer on top of it. That's how this beer really kind of feels to me. It feels like the booziness is just mixed in with all these really big, really pungent flavoured oils. So this is nice how it goes together. I really like this one. This is quite different in its mouthfeel to some of the other ones that I've got, but in Sweden there's a very high standard of New England IPA here, and this one certainly doesn't look out of place in my mind. Recently, I mean, I've had the Charismatico, which was released in the same lot from Systembolaget, and that was a really, really nice beer. This one, it's not quite as strong and punchy as that, right enough, but from Poppels, you kind of wouldn't expect that, to be honest. You wouldn't expect it to be as punchy as this, but this is a in its right, you know, from when you know this brewery, this is one of the punchiest beers that they've done, and they've really pulled it off quite well actually. I think they've done a very nice job of this, and as I say, it'd be a shame if this is only a one-off brew, so it'd be cool for them to release this as a regular beer, and I would say go with that. I don't know if that name's trademarked or whatever, but go with that name for it, Humlebomb, because it tends to be, what they'll do is they'll release it as Project number 2, then they'll just release it as, they'll release it with the actual name, but I think go for the Humlebomb Imperial New England IPA. That would be a good name for this beer actually. I like this one, as I say, that it's the mouthfeel of this I think is the real kind of quirk to this, but this is a very punchy beer, and it's definitely one of the punchiest I've had from Poppels. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't look out of place next to the like of Charismatico. I think that's definitely what we can say about this. So yeah, thumbs up to Poppels for this, and I like to see, you know, these guys are very good at the traditional styles. The last beers I've had are the old school kind of barley wines and things, but obviously with a modern take. It's cool to see them trying the more adventurous styles of beer. I'd love to see them have a go at a black IPA, or you know, an old school West Coast IPA, like a torpedo style thing again. This would be interesting to see them do that with the more modern hops. But yeah, this is a solid beer, this one. Try this if you get the chance. So yeah, let's focus on the hoppy side of this beer then. So in the back corners of the palate there's a teeny little bit of earthiness, but as you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, you do get a little bit of a nice kind of floral aromatic quality out of this one. This beer really doesn't feel all that bitter, to be honest with you, but as you go around the front curve of the palate you get a little bit of a lighter grassiness there, but on the very front edge of the tongue you definitely get some nice a nice kind of floral aromatic quality out of this one. I really like how that goes together. The kind of hoppy edge that this beer has, like I say, it's not too pungent, but it's just got a really nice level of bitterness to it, which is great actually. I really like this. Yeah, this is very, very nice actually. But yeah, the green side of the hops for me really quite nice and floral, but not overly bitter in my mind. And it just gives you a nice bit of freshness to the beer. But let's focus on the more kind of fruity aspects of this beer then. So behind the front curve of the palate, as I always say, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters push their way out of the beer. And for me, this one is quite passion fruity. I think I would stick to my premise earlier that it might be like Galaxy or Victoria's Secret or something like that that's in here. I think there's something in the flavour that tells me it might be Galaxy, to be honest with you. It's got quite a strong flavour to it, this one. Yeah. I do wonder, this has got to have been dry hopped about 20 or 30 grams per litre or something like that. It is pretty heavily dry hopped, just from the pungency of these flavours. But yeah, if you go towards the back of it there, you definitely get a nice strong passion fruity note out of this. But as you come further forward, it makes a really nice transition to a more soft tropical fruit. There is a wee bit of mango in there. I'm still not sure if there's citra in this, but yeah, it really evolves and it stays quite passion fruity. You get a little bit of a kind of papaya, apricot-y type thing as you move further forward, but then as you reach the kind of very front part behind the front curve of your tongue, to me this part of the beer really feels a little bit more oily and tangerine-y. So I do think there might be a bit of mosaic in this one. So I do wonder if this beer is maybe Galaxy and Mosaic. From the flavour, I'm really not sure about the Centennial. There was something in the aroma that was telling me there was Centennial in here. I'm not sure about that in terms of the actual flavour, because if you go towards the very front edge of the tongue, you do get a bit of that nice kind of grassy, kind of citricy, zesty type edge to the beer, but it's not overly prominent. It's not. There is a wee bit of a lemoniness on the very kind of front edge of the tongue. So I mean, there could be a bit of Centennial there, but I'm not convinced from the flavour that it is. I've got a feeling that this could just be a 2-hop beer going by the flavour. I think it might be Galaxy and Mosaic. There's just a feeling in my head. It could be Victoria's Secret. There's other hops, as I've mentioned earlier. It could be Eldorado, Simcoe, whatever. It could be things like that. It might even, you know, to me though, I think the grapefruit is just a little bit pungent to be Simcoe, come to think of it. But yeah, I've got a feeling this might be Galaxy and Mosaic. As I say, I always like playing guess the hops with these beers, but I think this might just be a 2-hopped beer in fairness. I don't know, maybe they've used another hop in the bittering stage, right enough. like, you know, Columbus or whatever it might be, or even Centennial could be. Centennial can work as a very nice bittering hop sometimes, but you lose a bit of the kind of lemony flavour out of it if you do that. So yeah, this one to me, I've got a feeling this might be Galaxy and Mosaic. I'm not 100% certain, as I say. There's a few other hops it could be, but I think this one is very, very nicely done. In terms of its flavour, the fruitiness, like I say, it's got quite a nice tangerine orangey note to it. The further you go into the aftertaste, more of the oily oranges start to come out a little bit, but you've also got a nice little bit of that stronger kind of passion fruity quality to the beer as well. The passion fruit is quite pungent in this one, and there's a few other little tropical fruit complexities in there as well. But I really like how this goes together. This beer gets a big thumbs up from me. I think this is one of the more adventurous beers that I've had from Poppels in recent times. So they're taking an exciting direction. I think this would be a shame if this is only a one-off brew. So I hope somebody from Poppels sees that and maybe values my opinion a little bit, because this is really good. In terms of the mouthfeel of this one then, kind of top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied. Carbonation is very smooth. It's quite an oily feeling New England IPA, this one. It's not the creamiest of New England's that you're going to come across, but that suits the flavour profile that the beer has. You've got a really nice, there is a good little bit of bitterness to this one. I think I want to say this is maybe about 40, 50 IBUs, something like that. So yeah, 40 or 50 IBUs in this one. The malt base, as I say, it's quite smooth actually. There's not too much sweetness from the malt base, but it really feels, a lot of the flavour you get from this one, it feels like you've got a very oily wet layer sitting on top of that malt base in the middle of your palate. But some really nice big pungent fruitiness to this one, and yeah, this is just a very nice beer, and I have to say, I really like how this goes together. So big thumbs up to Poppels Bryggeri for this one. I hope that this beer becomes a regular. And this shows you, I think that Poppels, in fairness, the last two beers that I've tried from these guys have been very, very impressive. So I think Daniel, he was always a good brewer, but I think really in the last couple of beers that I've had from this brewery, there's just been a kind of game changer. There's been a level up almost, if you like. So, you know, big thumbs up to Daniel for pulling off this beer. I think this is really good. But let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Humlebomb New England Imperial double IPA, whatever you want to call it. The latest beer from as of the 5th of May 2020 from Poppels Bryggeri in Jonsered up near Gothenburg in Sweden. I really like this one, and I highly recommend that you have a go at this. I think this is probably the most adventurous beer that I've had from Poppels so far. This gets massive plaudits from me. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. Thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Poppels Bryggeri as well. And we will return to these guys, no doubt, at some point over the next couple of months. This one was the Humlebomb, pardon me, double New England, or Imperial New England IPA, double dry hop to 8% from Poppels Bryggeri in Jonsered near Gothenburg, Sweden. Slange, skål, cheers, catch you soon, check out this beer.